All right, we will be talking about two-way tables again today, but this time we're going to be talking about something called relative frequencies, which you will see in a little bit. So if you look at the top of the page that we're looking at right here, it says from question 2, a random sample of 220 items is taken from 3 different suppliers for quality testing. The results are shown in the two-way table as shown. So let's just talk about what is being said in this two-way table. We did this a little bit in the last video. Ask yourself if you can figure out what this 22 stands for. If you said that 22 items from supplier A received a rating of fair, you are absolutely correct. Very good. Please figure out what this 220 right here stands for. If you said that there were 220 items taken as total as the sample, then you are absolutely correct for that one as well. How about this 99? 99 of the items sampled were from supplier A. And then figure out what this 50 means right here. 50 of the samples received a fair rating. All right, so question A says find the relative frequencies to compare the distribution of suppliers among each rating. So you're going to figure out how the suppliers were distributed between each rating. Okay? So in order to do this, we need to make another chart. And in our chart, it's going to have 4 columns and it's going to have 5 rows. And it says, and I'll explain to you why that is in a little bit. It says find the relative frequencies to compare the distribution of suppliers among each rating. So what that means you have to do is you want to know, you're trying to figure out what percentage of the poor ratings were from supplier A, or what percentage of the poor ratings were from supplier B. Okay, that's basically what it means right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to label this box right here A, this box right here B, and this box right here C, and then we're going to have a total box right here, just like we did before. But most importantly, we need to label our variable, and our variable is the supplier right here. Okay, and then for our rating, we have our 3 options. Either you could have gotten a poor rating, a fair rating, or a good rating. Okay, and then it says compare the distribution of suppliers among each rating. So what I need to do is, again, like I said, I want to figure out what percentage of poor ratings were from supplier A. So to figure that out, I have to take 8, because that's how many poor ratings were from supplier A, and it's out of the total number of poor ratings there were altogether. So there were 26 poor ratings altogether, so I'm going to say that it's out of 26. Okay, so this number right here would be 8 out of 26, and then you would plug that into your calculator and round that to the nearest hundredth. So I would take 8 divided by 26, and I end up getting 0.30769. Rounded to the nearest hundredth, it would be 0.31. So this number right here would be 0.31. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. So now for supplier B, I need to take however many there were that were poor ratings from supplier B out of the total number of ratings there were altogether. So this is 6 out of 26. Same thing, plug it into your calculator, and you would end up getting 0.23. And then the last one, C, I want to figure out C had a rating of 12, or sorry, 12 of the supplier C's were poor. So that would be 12 out of 26. Plug that into your calculator, you should end up getting about 0.46 rounded to the nearest hundredth. Okay, then all you have to do is add up all 3 of those numbers together. So you're going to add 0.31, 0.23, and 0.46. So let's go ahead and do that. 0.31 plus 0.23 plus 0.46. You end up getting 1, which should make sense to you that you would get 1 because this is the total number. It's 26 out of 26. It's 100%. Okay, I'll get you started on the next one. So now I want to figure out what percentage of the fair ratings were from supplier A. So there were 22 fair ratings from supplier A. So I would do 22 And there were a total of 50 fair ratings, so it would be out of 50. So 22 out of 50, plug that into your calculator, you get an exact answer. You should end up getting 0.44. All right, I want you to finish the rest of this column and then come back to see how you did. All right, press pause first and then come back and check your answers with mine. So you should end up getting 18 out of 50 and 10 out of 50, which ends up being 0.36 and 0.20, which is a whole number right here. Okay, please try the good column and see what you end up getting for your good column. Press pause and then come back to me once you've completed the good column. All right, so you should have gotten 69 out of 144, which is about 0.48, 53 out of 144, which is about 0.37, and 22 out of 144, which is about 0.15. Hopefully you did okay with that. Now, you might have noticed how there was only a total row, but there was no total column right here. And the reason why is because you're figuring out what percentage of each rating was in each supplier. You're not figuring out what percentage of each supplier got a specific rating. So it's not out of this total column at all. It's really out of this total column right here. And that's why, again, you only, or this total row, excuse me, and that's why, again, you only have a total row down here. And when you're finding the relative frequencies, it should be a 100% down here, okay? All right, so now question B asks us to describe the distribution of suppliers among each rating. So basically it's just asking you, let's make sense of what this chart is saying. So what does this 0.31 mean in your chart right here? This means that 31% of the poor ratings were from supplier A. Okay, so that's what we're going to say right here. So one thing that we notice is that, sorry, let's make some bullets right here. You're going to have to write small too. 31% of all poor ratings were from supplier A. All right, and then we're going to say that 23% of all poor ratings were from supplier B, and 46% were from supplier C. Okay, then let's talk about the fair ratings. Out of all the fair ratings, 44% were from supplier A, 36% were from supplier B, and 20% were from supplier C. Okay, make sure you pause so you can get this information down. Because it's really important that you understand what these percentages mean. What I want you to do right now is, after you get these first two bullets down, I want you to ask yourself, what would my third bullet say? Okay, go ahead and see if you can figure that out. All right, you should say, out of all the good ratings, 48% were from supplier A, 37% were from supplier B, and 15% were from supplier C. Okay? Hopefully this will help you to better understand what these percentages mean. All right, question C. Find the relative frequencies to compare the distribution of ratings among each supplier. So this time I want to look at each supplier and see what percentage of each supplier had a poor rating, a fair rating, or a good rating. So just like we did before, we are going to label this right here our rating. Okay, and down or on the side we're going to call this supplier. And our ratings are going to be poor, fair, and good. And we're going to have a total column this time because I want to know what percentage total fall for supplier A, supplier B, and supplier C. So I'm going to call this A, B, and C. So again, it says compare the distribution of ratings among each supplier. So I want to know what percentage of supplier A items were poor. So I'm going to look at this whole column to figure this out. Sorry, I did not mean to cross that off. So I'm going to look at this whole column right here to figure out that answer. Okay, so there were 8 items that were poor out of 99 total items in supplier A, right? So I had 8 here, and it's out of the total 99 that I have here. So it's going to be 8 out of 99. When you plug that into your calculator, you'll get approximately 0.08. Okay, so then to figure out the fair ratings, there were 22 fair ratings for supplier A, and there were 99 ratings total for supplier A. So I would say 22 out of 99, which is about 0.22. Okay. And then lastly, I would take the good ratings and divide that by however many there were total. There were 99 total ratings for supplier A. So I would say that that's about 0.70. Add these three numbers up together right here, you end up getting a whole, which should make sense to you because there were 99 items total out of 99 items, which is 100% of what we would get. Okay, so remember, this means that 8% of supplier A items were rated as poor, 22% of supplier A items were rated fair, and 70% were rated good. All right, so now let's look at this box right here. What I want you to do is see if you can set up what the fraction would look like yourself, and then come back to me to see how you did. All right, you should have that there were 6 poor items out of 77 total items from supplier B, which gives you about 0.08 again. All right, fill in the rest of the row, see what you get. Don't forget to press pause and then come back to me once you're done. All right, so you should get 18 out of 77, which is about 0.23, and 53 out of 77, which is about 0.69. Add up all three of these numbers together, you get 100%. Go ahead and see if you can set up part C, or the poor rating for supplier C, and then compare your answer with mine. Okay, so you should end up getting that since there were 12 supplier C items that were rated as poor, out of 44 items total, there will be that would mean that you would have about 0.27, which means 27% of supplier C items were rated as poor. All right, so the next one would be 10 out of 44, so you end up getting about 0.23. And the last one you'll get is 22 out of 44, which is it's not about, it's actually exactly equal to 0.50 or 50%. So remember again, this means that 50% of supplier C items were rated as good, for a total right here of 100% of all supplier C items. All right, so now question D says to describe the distribution of ratings among each supplier. So same thing, we're going to write some descriptions and understand what it is saying exactly inside of here. So if you take a look at this right here, remember we said that this means that out of all of supplier A items, 8% were rated as poor. Okay, so we would say that right here. We would say out of, out of all supplier A items, 8% were rated as poor, 22% were rated as fair, and 69% were rated as good. All right, don't forget to press pause if you need to catch up. All right, then we would talk about all of supplier B items. So out of all supplier B items, again, 8% were also rated as poor, 23% were fair, and 69% were good. Okay, I apologize, you guys, this right here should have been 70% were rated as good for this number right here. Okay, and then we're going to do one more, and that is for supplier C. So for supplier C, out of all of their items, supplier C items, 27% were rated as poor, 23% were rated as good, or excuse me, as fair, and 50% were rated as good. So just by doing this, it's very clear that supplier C's items are not as good as supplier A and supplier B items. Okay. In class, next time I see you in class, you're going to be working with your partners on doing the next page of your notes, and that'll help make sure that you really understand how to find the relative frequencies for your two-way tables. All right, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon.